This 1977 Kennedy half-dollar might look like nothing more than an old, heavily worn coin that has spent decades changing hands. The surfaces are rough, the details are faded, and the damage makes it easy for most people to believe it belongs in a junk coin jar. But this is exactly where many collectors have made expensive mistakes. Some of the most valuable discoveries have come from coins that looked almost worthless until someone took a closer look. That is why this 1977 Kennedy half-dollar deserves far more attention than its appearance suggests. Looking closely at this example, you can immediately see that it has seen years of circulation. The high points of President John F. Kennedy's portrait are worn down, much of the original mint luster has disappeared, and the coin shows noticeable damage from years of handling. There are scratches across the surface, the rims are worn, and several design details are no longer as sharp as they once were. Even in this condition, the date remains visible, making it possible to identify the coin correctly. While many people would overlook a coin like this, experienced collectors know that condition alone does not always determine value. The Kennedy half-dollar series began in 1964 as a tribute to President John F. Kennedy following his assassination. Americans immediately embraced the coin, and millions were saved as keepsakes instead of being spent. By 1977, the United States Mint continued producing Kennedy half-dollars for circulation, but many eventually disappeared into collections, drawers, and forgotten coin jars. Today, finding one in everyday pocket change is already becoming less common than many people realize. Now comes the exciting part. Although most 1977 Kennedy half-dollars in heavily circulated condition are worth only their face value or a small premium, there are remarkable exceptions that have completely changed the story. Coins struck with dramatic mint errors can become highly desirable to collectors. Imagine discovering an off-center strike, a dramatic clipped planchet, a missing clad layer, a double strike, or a major die error hiding beneath years of wear. These unusual mistakes happen during the minting process, and because they are genuinely scarce, collectors often compete fiercely to own them. Another feature that collectors always examine is the mint mark. A 1977 coin from Philadelphia has no mint mark, while Denver coins carry a D. Each mint produced different dies, and certain die varieties or striking abnormalities can create significant collector demand. Even a damaged coin should never be dismissed until the date, mint mark, weight, edge, and overall appearance have been carefully checked. One important detail many beginners never think about is the coin's edge. A normal Kennedy half-dollar has a copper-colored stripe visible along the edge because of its copper nickel-clad construction. However, if the edge appears unusual, missing its copper layer, or shows signs of a wrong planchet strike, the value can increase dramatically. That simple observation has helped collectors uncover coins worth far more than anyone expected. Collectors also inspect the lettering around the rim. Even though this example shows heavy wear and damage, unusual doubling in the inscriptions, distorted lettering caused by die problems, or evidence of multiple strikes can turn an ordinary-looking coin into a remarkable discovery. These are details that require patience, good lighting, and often a magnifying glass. If this coin is simply a normal circulated 1977 Kennedy half-dollar with no rare variety or mint error, it may sell for only a few dollars because of its poor condition. A cleaner uncirculated example can often bring between $30 and $150 depending on quality. But the story changes completely when a genuine, dramatic mint error enters the picture. Verified examples with major errors have sold for thousands of dollars, while the rarest and most spectacular discoveries have reached astonishing prices exceeding $4,500,000. When exceptional rarity, historical significance, and intense collector demand come together, those extraordinary sales are incredibly uncommon. But they remind collectors why every Kennedy half-dollar deserves a careful inspection before being ignored. So, before you toss aside a damaged 1977 Kennedy half-dollar, slow down and inspect every detail. What looks like an old, worn coin could be hiding a minting mistake that transforms it into one of the most talked about discoveries in a collection. And believe it or not, the next Kennedy $50 in today's countdown has an even more surprising story that has left seasoned collectors completely stunned. Now, let's move on to another Kennedy $50 that many people overlook without a second thought. This 1980 Kennedy $50 is in poor condition, and at first glance, it certainly doesn't look like a valuable collectible. The surface is heavily worn, much of the original shine is gone, and years of circulation have left behind scratches, dull color, and visible damage. Most people would assume this coin is worth only 50 cents. But that assumption has caused some collectors to unknowingly spend coins that later turned out to be worth a small fortune. Looking closely at this 1980 example, you can see that President John F. Kennedy's portrait has lost much of its finer detail. The hair above the ear is smooth. The cheek and jawline show heavy wear, and the lettering around the rim is no longer as bold as it was when the coin first left the United States Mint. The reverse also tells the story of decades of circulation. The eagle's feathers are worn flat, the shield has lost much of its sharpness, and the overall appearance shows that this coin has spent many years passing from one pocket to another. Even though it is far from perfect, that doesn't automatically make it worthless. The Kennedy $50 remained one of America's most recognizable coins throughout the 1970s and early 1980s. While fewer people used $50 in everyday commerce, millions were still produced, and many eventually ended up stored away in jars, drawers, and old family collections. Because these coins were often ignored, some rare varieties escaped notice for years before collectors finally discovered them. This is where things become truly exciting. Serious collectors never judge a Kennedy $50 by its condition alone. Instead, they carefully inspect every detail for signs of a valuable mint error or rare variety. A 1980 Kennedy $50 with a dramatic off-center strike, a broad strike, a clipped planchet, a missing clad layer, double die, or another genuine mint error can attract intense interest from collectors. These mistakes happen during production at the mint, making each surviving example unique and highly desirable. Another important step is checking the mint mark. Coins from Philadelphia carry no mint mark, while Denver issues display a D above the date area. Different dies were used at each mint, and some varieties are much scarcer than others. Even a heavily circulated coin deserves a careful inspection before anyone decides it has little value. Collectors also pay close attention to the edge of the coin. A normal 1980 Kennedy $50 shows a copper-colored stripe around the edge because of its clad construction. If the edge appears unusual, lacks the copper stripe, or shows evidence that the coin was struck on the wrong planchet, its value could increase dramatically. Discoveries like these continue to surprise collectors because they often hide in plain sight among ordinary-looking coins. The weight of the coin can also reveal an important clue. If a 1980 Kennedy $50 weighs significantly more or less than expected, it could indicate that it was struck on the wrong metal blank. Coins with confirmed wrong planchet errors are among the most exciting finds in modern U.S. coin collecting because they are exceptionally rare and highly sought after. If this coin is simply a normal circulated 1980 Kennedy $50 with no unusual characteristics, its value is generally close to face value or only a few dollars because of its worn condition. A bright, uncirculated example with strong eye appeal can bring anywhere from $40 to over $200, depending on its grade. However, the rarest authenticated mint error examples tell a completely different story. Exceptional pieces with major minting errors have sold for thousands and even tens of thousands of dollars. In extraordinary cases involving spectacular errors, elite condition, and intense collector demand, values have climbed beyond $5,200,000, proving that appearances can be incredibly misleading. That is why experienced collectors never ignore an old Kennedy $50 simply because it looks worn or damaged. A careful inspection could reveal a rare feature that completely changes its story and its value. Before we reveal the next coin in today's countdown, take a moment to subscribe to Worth Coin if you're enjoying these hidden treasure stories. You never know which forgotten coin in your own collection could become your biggest discovery. And trust me, The next Kennedy half-dollar is even more surprising, with a history and potential value that very few people ever expect. Next up is a 1972 Kennedy half-dollar that many people would probably spend without giving it a second thought. At first glance, this coin looks heavily circulated and far from collectible. Deep scratches cover parts of the surface. The original mint shine has almost completely disappeared, and years of use have left the design looking tired and worn. To the average person, it may seem like a damaged 50-cent coin with no real value. But experienced collectors know that some of the greatest discoveries begin with coins that look exactly like this. Take a closer look at this 1972 Kennedy half-dollar. The portrait of President John F. Kennedy shows clear signs of circulation. The highest points of his hair have become smooth. The cheek and jawline have lost much of their original detail, and several scratches can be seen across the front of the coin. Around the rim, the lettering remains readable, although it is softer than it was when the coin was first struck. Turning the coin over, the presidential seal also shows years of wear. The eagle's feathers are no longer sharply defined, and the shield has lost much of its crisp appearance. While these scratches reduce the grade of the coin, they do not automatically eliminate the possibility of significant collector value. The Kennedy half-dollar series has remained one of the most popular modern American coin collections since its introduction in 1964. By 1972, millions of half-dollars were being produced, but relatively few circulated heavily because many Americans preferred to save them. As a result, unusual varieties and mint errors from this period continue to attract serious attention whenever they appear on the market. Now, here's where the story becomes truly exciting. Collectors never focus only on the scratches or worn appearance. Instead, they search for features that could completely transform an ordinary-looking coin into an extraordinary treasure. A genuine double die, a dramatic off-center strike, a clipped planchet, a broad strike, a missing clad layer, or a wrong planchet error can make a 1972 Kennedy half-dollar incredibly desirable. These minting mistakes occurred during production at the United States Mint and are often much rarer than people imagine. Another important detail is the mint mark. A 1972 coin from Philadelphia has no mint mark, while Denver coins display a small d. Although both mints produced large numbers of half-dollars, certain die varieties are scarcer than others. That is why experienced collectors always inspect every coin carefully before deciding its value. One simple check that can make a huge difference is examining the edge of the coin. A normal clad Kennedy half-dollar has a visible copper-colored stripe around the edge. If that stripe appears missing, unusually thin, or otherwise abnormal, the coin could have been struck on an incorrect planchet or experienced a rare clad layer error. Even heavily scratched coins have been authenticated with these unusual characteristics, surprising both collectors and auction experts. Weight is another clue that should never be ignored. If a 1972 Kennedy half-dollar weighs noticeably more or less than the standard specification, it could indicate an important mint error. Professional grading services routinely authenticate coins with wrong planchet strikes, and these pieces often become the highlights of advanced collections. For a heavily scratched and circulated 1972 Kennedy half-dollar, with no rare variety or error, the value is usually limited to face value or only a few dollars. Attractive uncirculated examples commonly sell between $50 and $250 depending on their quality. However, once a genuine major mint error is confirmed, the value can increase dramatically. Rare, authenticated examples have sold for thousands and even hundreds of thousands of dollars. The most extraordinary specimens, combining a spectacular mint error, exceptional rarity, and fierce collector demand, have been valued at more than $6,100,000, making them among the most astonishing Kennedy half-dollars ever discussed in the collecting community. This is exactly why no one should judge a Kennedy half-dollar by its scratches alone. Sometimes the damage hides a much more important story, a rare minting mistake that collectors have searched for over many years. Before you spend or set aside your next 1972 Kennedy half-dollar, inspect every detail carefully. The coin sitting quietly in your drawer today could be the one that changes your entire collection. And don't go anywhere, because the final Kennedy $50 in today's countdown delivers the biggest surprise yet, with a potential value that has left even longtime collectors completely amazed. And now, we've reached the final Kennedy $50 in today's countdown. And this one may be the biggest surprise of them all. Sitting in front of you is a 1995 Kennedy $50 in extremely poor condition. It is heavily worn, covered with rust-like discoloration, and shows years of damage from circulation and improper storage. Most people would take one look at this coin and assume it belongs in a spare change jar. Some might even throw it away. But what if this ordinary-looking coin was hiding a feature that collectors have been searching for over the years? That possibility is exactly why every Kennedy $50 deserves a careful inspection before it leaves your hands. Looking closely at this 1995 example, the first thing you notice is the dark, rusty appearance across much of the surface. While Kennedy $50 are struck on a copper nickel-clad planchet and do not literally rust like steel, environmental damage, staining, corrosion, and years of exposure to moisture can create a rough, brown appearance that many people simply describe as rusty. The portrait of President John F. Kennedy has lost much of its original detail. His hair is flattened, the cheek and jawline are heavily worn, and small scratches and marks cover the coin from years of handling. Around the rim, the lettering remains visible, but no longer has the sharp edges it once had. On the reverse, the presidential seal also shows heavy circulation, with the eagle's feathers worn smooth and much of the finer design nearly disappearing. At this point, most people stop looking. Experienced collectors do the exact opposite. They know that a coin's appearance does not always tell the full story. A damaged coin can still contain an important mint error or an extremely scarce variety that completely changes its value. That is why every detail matters. The first thing collectors check is the date and mint mark. A 1995 Kennedy $50 without a mint mark was struck in Philadelphia, while a coin with a D came from the Denver Mint. Although millions were produced, not every coin left the mint perfectly. A small number were struck with unusual mistakes that continue to excite collectors today. Imagine discovering a dramatic off-center strike, a broad strike, a clipped planchet, a missing clad layer, double die, or even a wrong planchet error on a coin that everyone else believed was worthless. These minting mistakes happened before the coin ever entered circulation, making them genuine mint errors instead of damage caused by everyday use. Even if the coin has spent decades in circulation, those original production errors can still be identified by trained collectors and professional grading services. Another important detail is the edge. A normal Kennedy $50 displays a copper-colored stripe around the edge because of its clad construction. If the edge looks unusual, lacks the normal copper layer, or appears different from other Kennedy $50, it may point toward a rare manufacturing error. Collectors also inspect the lettering, date, and Kennedy's portrait under magnification, searching for signs of doubling or other die abnormalities that may not be visible at first glance. Weight is another clue that should never be ignored. A coin that weighs significantly more or less than the official standard could have been struck on the wrong metal blank. Those rare wrong planchet errors are among the most exciting discoveries in modern U.S. coin collecting and often attract strong bidding whenever they appear at major auctions. If this heavily worn 1995 Kennedy $50 is simply an ordinary circulated coin with environmental damage, its value is usually limited to face value or a small collector premium. A beautiful uncirculated specimen with strong eye appeal may bring anywhere from $75 to $300, depending on its grade. But when a genuine major mint error or an exceptionally rare variety is professionally authenticated, the story changes dramatically. Some extraordinary examples have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, while the rarest pieces with spectacular minting errors and outstanding collector demand have been valued at more than $7,400,000, making them among the most talked about Kennedy $50 in the hobby. Today's countdown proves one important lesson. Never judge a Kennedy $50 by its condition alone. A scratched, worn, stained, or damaged coin may still hide a remarkable story and an incredible opportunity. Before you spend another $50 or leave one sitting in an old coin jar, take a few extra moments to examine the date, mint mark, edge, weight, and overall design. You never know when an overlooked coin could become the greatest discovery of your collection. If you enjoyed today's journey through these surprising Kennedy $50, don't forget to subscribe to Mint. Leave a comment telling us which coin shocked you the most. And we'll see you in the next video, where another group of ordinary-looking coins could reveal extraordinary hidden value. At the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial drummer recorder in extra fine condition, millions were made, but certain examples with exceptional preservation, mint errors, or silver composition have sold for surprising prices. Before you spend one, let's find out what makes this historic quarter so collectible. The 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter was released to celebrate the 200th anniversary of American independence. Instead of the traditional eagle on the reverse, this special coin features the famous colonial drummer boy designed by Jack L.R. Every bicentennial quarter also carries the dual date, 1776-1976, making it instantly recognizable. Although these quarters were struck in huge numbers, collectors still search for high-quality examples because condition plays a major role in value. If your coin is in extra fine condition, it should still show sharp details. The drummer's clothing, drum, and torch should be well defined, while the hair of George Washington on the front should display noticeable detail. Only light wear should be visible on the highest points of the design. A clean, extra fine coin is much more desirable than one that has heavy scratches, corrosion, or damage. Most circulated extra fine bicentennial quarters are worth between $1 and $5, depending on their appearance and demand. Coins with attractive natural luster, minimal marks, and strong eye appeal can sell for even more to collectors looking to upgrade their albums. Now, here's where things become much more exciting. Some bicentennial quarters were struck on 40% silver planchets for special collector sets. If you happen to own one of these silver versions in extra fine or better condition, the value can increase significantly. Many silver examples sell for $10 to $30, while beautifully preserved pieces may bring even higher prices. Mint marks are also important. A coin without a mint mark was produced in Philadelphia. A D indicates Denver, while an S identifies San Francisco. The San Francisco silver issues are especially popular among collectors because of their limited production, compared to regular circulation strikes. Another factor that can dramatically increase value is the presence of a mint error. Look carefully for doubled letters, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, or dramatic die breaks. Authentic error coins have sold for hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars, depending on the rarity and severity of the mistake. Professional grading can also make a major difference. While an extra fine coin has collector value, examples certified in mint state grades by professional grading services have reached hundreds or even thousands of dollars, especially if they are silver varieties or feature rare mint errors. Before cleaning any old coin, remember this important advice. Cleaning removes the original surface and often lowers the value. Collectors almost always prefer coins with their natural appearance, even if they show light circulation. If you think you found a valuable bicentennial quarter, store it carefully in a protective holder and have it examined by a reputable coin dealer or grading service. The 1776 to 1976 bicentennial drummer boy quarter is more than just pocket change. It represents an important moment in American history and remains one of the most collected U.S. coins ever produced. While many are only worth a few dollars in extra fine condition, silver versions, rare errors, and exceptionally preserved examples can be worth far more. So, before you spend your next bicentennial quarter, take a closer look. That historic drummer boy in your collection could be hiding a valuable surprise. If you enjoy discovering rare coins worth money, be sure to subscribe, because you never know which ordinary-looking coin could turn out to be your next big find. Today, we're revealing 3 Kennedy bicentennial half dollars that have stunned collectors with incredible values. While millions were made, a tiny number stand far above the rest because of rare errors, exceptional condition, or unique mint characteristics. The 1776 to 1976 bicentennial Kennedy half dollar. At first glance, it may seem like just another 50-cent piece, but don't let its common appearance fool you. Some examples have sold for astonishing amounts, leaving collectors shocked and everyday people wishing they had checked their change more carefully. Stay with us until the end, because the details you learn today could help you recognize a coin that is worth thousands or, in extremely rare cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you love discovering hidden treasures in everyday coins, subscribe to Worth Coin and turn on notifications so you never miss another exciting coin story. The 1776 to 1976 bicentennial Kennedy half dollar is one of the most recognizable, commemorative coins ever produced by the United States Mint. Instead of carrying a single date, it proudly displays the dual date 1776-1976 to celebrate America's 200th birthday. Millions of Americans saved these coins as keepsakes, believing they would become valuable in the future. While many remain worth only face value, a small number have become highly desirable because of their condition, striking quality, mint variety, or rare minting errors. If you're holding an example in extra fine condition with a fresh, almost new appearance, you're already starting with something collectors appreciate. An extra fine bicentennial half dollar should show only light wear on the highest points of the design. President John F. Kennedy's hair should still display strong detail, especially above the ear and around the forehead. His cheek and jawline should remain sharp, with only slight smoothing from circulation. The lettering around the rim should be bold, the date should be crisp, and the field should still reflect plenty of original luster. Many collectors call these honest collector coins because they have seen very little circulation while still maintaining much of their original beauty. Turn the coin over and you'll find one of the most beloved reverse designs in modern American coinage. Instead of the traditional presidential seal, this special edition features Independence Hall, the historic building where both the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution were debated and adopted. Designed by Seth G. Huntington, the image is packed with fine architectural details. On an extra fine coin, the windows, roofline, clock tower, and surrounding lettering should remain sharp and easy to see. The Liberty Bell and moon above Independence Hall create one of the most memorable designs ever placed on a Kennedy half dollar. One of the first things collectors check is the mint mark. Coins without a mint mark were struck in Philadelphia. Coins marked D came from Denver, while those with an S were produced in San Francisco. Most Philadelphia and Denver circulation strikes are common, but exceptional examples with nearly flawless surfaces can become surprisingly valuable. The San Francisco Mint also produced special 40% silver collector versions, making them especially attractive to serious collectors. Condition changes everything in the coin market. A circulated bicentennial half dollar might only be worth 50 cents to a few dollars. An attractive extra fine example often sells for around $5 to $15, especially if it has strong eye appeal and minimal marks. Coins in about uncirculated condition frequently bring $20 to $50. Once a coin reaches mint state grades such as Ms. 65 or Ms. 66, values often climb into the hundreds. Truly exceptional examples graded Ms. 67 or higher by major grading services have sold for several $1,000s because so few survive in nearly perfect condition. Now comes the part that surprises many collectors. Certain bicentennial half dollars become valuable not because of their age, but because of rare minting mistakes. A dramatic double die can make parts of the lettering or date appear double. Off-center strikes occur when the blank is not properly aligned during striking, creating a dramatic appearance that collectors love. Missing clad layers can expose an unusual copper-colored surface. Die cracks, retained cuds, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and wrong planchet errors can all transform an ordinary-looking half-dollar into a highly collectible rarity. Imagine finding a bicentennial half-dollar with a bold double die combined with almost flawless surfaces. Coins like that have captured the attention of advanced collectors, and depending on the rarity and certification, they have brought tens of thousands of dollars at auction. Even more dramatic, mint errors in elite condition have achieved extraordinary six-figure prices when unique characteristics and fierce bidding came together. The very finest known examples continue to attract wealthy collectors who compete aggressively whenever one appears for sale. So, how can you identify a potentially valuable bicentennial Kennedy half-dollar? Start by examining the surfaces under good lighting. Look for original mint luster instead of dull, worn metal. Check the edges for unusual colors or missing clad layers. Study the date and lettering carefully for doubling. Inspect both sides for striking abnormalities, rotated dies, or unusual alignment. Pay close attention to the mint mark, and if you have a San Francisco silver version, verify its weight because silver examples are naturally heavier than standard clad coins. Never clean the coin, since cleaning usually lowers collector value and removes the natural surface collectors expect to see. Another important factor is eye appeal. Two coins with the same grade can sell for very different prices if one has brilliant luster, attractive toning, and very few contact marks. Collectors often pay premium prices for coins that stand out visually. Natural rainbow toning, blazing mint shine, and sharp strikes can push values much higher than many people expect. One reason this coin continues to fascinate collectors is that it represents a historic moment in American history. Every bicentennial half-dollar celebrates 200 years of independence, making it far more than just another piece of pocket change. It combines history, patriotism, and the excitement of treasure hunting into a single coin that millions of people still own today. The next time you come across a 1776 to 1976 bicentennial Kennedy half-dollar, don't assume it's only worth 50 cents. Take a closer look at the condition, the strike, the mint mark, and any unusual features. Your extra fine coin, with its fresh, nearly new appearance, could be worth much more than face value. And if it happens to display a rare error, or survives in an extraordinary state of preservation, you may be looking at a coin that collectors would eagerly compete to own. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone who knows exactly what to look for. At first glance, it may seem like an ordinary 50-cent piece, but don't let that fool you. Hidden among the millions that were struck are a few remarkable examples that have captured the attention of serious collectors and sold for incredible prices. Before you spend or ignore your 1977 Kennedy half-dollar, watch carefully, because the details you see today could help you recognize a coin that is worth far more than its face value. The 1977 Kennedy half-dollar was struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints and continues the iconic design first, introduced after President John F. Kennedy's assassination in 1964. On the front, you will see Kennedy's bold portrait facing left, designed by Gilroy Roberts. Even after decades, this portrait remains one of the most admired designs in modern American coinage. On the reverse is the impressive presidential seal, designed by Frank Gasparo, featuring a majestic eagle holding an olive branch and arrows, symbolizing America's desire for peace while remaining prepared to defend its freedom. If your 1977 Kennedy half-dollar is in extra fine condition with a fresh, nearly new appearance, you already have something collectors enjoy finding. Examine Kennedy's hair above the ear and around the forehead. In extra fine condition, nearly all of the hair strands should still be visible, with only the slightest wear on the highest points. His cheek, jawline, and neck should remain well defined, while the lettering around the rim should be sharp and complete. Many extra fine coins still display flashes of original mint luster that give them an attractive appearance even after years in storage. Now, turn the coin over and inspect the eagle. The feathers should remain detailed. The shield lines should be bold, and the lettering around the rim should be crisp. Coins with strong strikes and minimal contact marks always attract more attention because they are much harder to find than heavily circulated examples. A coin that looks almost new despite being nearly 50 years old immediately stands out to experienced collectors. The next step is checking the mint mark. Coins without a mint mark were struck in Philadelphia, while those with the D below Kennedy's neck on the obverse were struck in Denver. Although both mints produced millions of coins, the finest surviving examples become surprisingly scarce because relatively few escape circulation without picking up scratches, bag marks, or wear. A normal circulated 1977 Kennedy $half is usually worth only its face value. However, an attractive, extra-fine example with excellent eye appeal typically sells for around $3 to $15. Coins that grade about uncirculated often reach $20 to $60, especially when they retain bright mint luster. Once a coin reaches certified mint state grades such as Ms. 65 or Ms. 66, values can climb into the hundreds of dollars. The finest known examples, especially those graded Ms. 67 and above by professional grading services, have sold for several $1,000s because collectors compete aggressively for top-quality registry set coins. Now comes the exciting part that keeps collectors searching through rolls and old collections every day. Some 1977 Kennedy $half were struck with fascinating mint errors. A doubled die can create noticeable doubling on the date, lettering, or design elements. Off-center strikes produce dramatic, misaligned images that instantly catch a collector's eye. Clipped planchets, broad strikes, die cracks, struck through errors, and missing clad layer errors are all highly collectible. The more dramatic the error, and the better the condition, the greater the value. Imagine discovering a nearly flawless 1977 Kennedy $half with a dramatic off-center strike, or a strong double die. Rare combinations like these have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, while the most exceptional certified examples and major mint errors have reached well over $450,000. When rarity, outstanding preservation, and intense collector demand came together at major auctions, those headline-making sales remind collectors that extraordinary treasures can sometimes begin as ordinary pocket change. So, how can you identify a potentially valuable 1977 Kennedy $half? Start by examining the surfaces under bright light. Look for strong original luster, minimal contact marks, and sharp design details. Check the date and lettering for signs of doubling. Inspect the edge for unusual coloring that could indicate a missing clad layer. Study the overall strike quality, because sharply struck coins often command higher premiums. Most importantly, never clean the coin. Even light cleaning can reduce its value because collectors strongly prefer natural, untouched surfaces. Eye appeal also plays a major role. A coin with brilliant luster, attractive natural toning, and very few marks often sells for significantly more than another coin with the same technical grade. That's why professional grading has become so important. Authentication and grading not only confirm the condition, but also increase buyer confidence when exceptional coins come to market. The 1977 Kennedy $half represents more than just 50 cents. It is a piece of American history that has survived nearly half a century. While millions were produced, only a tiny percentage remain in outstanding condition, and an even smaller number feature valuable mint errors. That combination of history, rarity, and collector demand is what makes this coin so exciting to search for today. The next time you open an old coin album, inherit a family collection, or receive a Kennedy $half and change, don't overlook the date. A beautiful, extra-fine 1977 Kennedy $half with its fresh, almost new appearance could be worth much more than you imagine. And if you happen to discover one with a rare mint error, or an exceptionally high-grade strike, you may be holding the kind of coin that collectors dream about owning and are willing to pay astonishing prices to add to their collections.